Sioux Falls, and welcome to Envsion. I'm Deanne Conrad, Community Relations Supervisor for the Sioux Falls School District. Dr. Brian Maher is our superintendent. We are talking about wrapping up the task force process of our building facilities plan process.
Right.
It's a lot of information.
And I remember a couple of months ago thinking, oh, this is going to be a long time, and now it's done. Their work is done. It was quite a group and quite a lot of information to get through.
So we had 30 people on this task force. A very good cross-section of our community, some young professionals without children, some existing parents, some former parents, some retired folks. What about the makeup of the task force, would you tell our community?
Oh, I would say the same thing. A great cross-section, parents-to-be, parents with kids in school, and grandparents. Really quite a cross-section of the community, and really a lot of different perspectives. We had East Siders, we had West Siders, we had folks from the northern part of our community and the southern part of our community. It was really a really nice cross-section of our community.
So they tackled the issues of what does the Sioux Falls School District need in terms of handling the increasing enrollment that we've seen, and we do not see an end in sight in that regard, plus some other needs that are coming up because of age of facilities or really planning for the future as well.
Really, and you just nailed it, really two big buckets that they had to talk about. One was an issue that's really pretty easy to see if you live in the community of Sioux Falls, and that is there's more houses all the time. There are people living in those houses, and the kids of those people tend to come to our schools. So our enrollment growth is part of the issue, but it's not the whole issue. We have some buildings that are taking on some age. What do we do in terms of providing tender, loving care to those buildings so that we can maximize the use of those buildings? And then the other thing, the third thing that was an interesting part of the dialogue was, what is our commitment to the core of our city? What is our commitment to the core of Sioux Falls? And that was an interesting dynamic, and something that I think the school has to take an active role in, saying we won't abandon the core of our community. When you think of Whittier, which really dominated a lot of conversation, and we're going to stay, the recommendation to the Board of Education is that we stay committed to that site as a school district.
Right.
So I would extend that to, you think of Cleveland, you think of Hawthorne, you think of Lowell, you think of some of those schools that exist. And so not only did the task force deal with facilities as they currently exist and enrollment trends, but also what is our role and commitment to the core of our community.
And that was spoken very loudly and clearly, that is an important component of any plan moving forward. And so
I was surprised at the emotion that got behind that, and I was already, in my own personal opinion, that was already really important, but it was a pronounced opinion throughout the task force. So that was good to hear.
Really great to hear. And really the center part of our community with downtown and the revitalization of some areas, it really just fits the mold that we need to continue to focus on those downtown areas.
It fits perfectly with that. You're exactly right. When you think of the revitalization, you think of the economic vitality we have in our community, and some of that centered in the core of our community. And then you couple that with something that we say all the time, and that is we're a reflection of the community. So of course we should be committed to the core of our community.
Right. And so this plan, the task force has agreed upon some major tenets of what a plan should be moving forward, including a new high school, new middle school, in addition to a future new Whittier Middle School, an elementary, and some other projects that have been brought forward. What happens now after the recommendation has been made?
All of that information now goes to the Board of Education, and the Board of Education, I know, has been watching with great anticipation as to what the task force would come up with, and then trying to figure out now how do they make sense of all the information. So remember, the information they have isn't just the task force information. It's all of the community information that we gathered before the task force ever met.
Right.
It's the meetings we had with teachers before the task force ever met. it is the result of the task force. But beyond that, it's also a survey that we just completed with our community, which helps give them some guidance, and then all the feedback that they're getting as individual board members. So there's a lot of stuff for them to go through and then try to figure out, here's the rank order and priorities that we need from a facilities perspective. Now, what can we afford to pay? No different than you and I would do in our household. If I need to paint my house. So am I going to paint it this year or next year? Where does that fit in my personal budget? We're doing that as a school district now. Here are the priorities. What can we afford to pay? That will determine how many of those priorities we take on.
Right, and so all of that information, once it is determined by the school board, which we believe will happen sometime in July when they make a decision.
I think the board will go through all the information at work sessions and board meetings in June, so that when it comes to July 9th maybe, July 23rd, no later than, they'll be able to say, we've had enough time, we have enough information, here is our project.
And then that project, regardless of what it all entails, whatever is considered to be the project and approved by the school board, then has to be approved by our community and its taxpayers. That's not a step that we intend to skip at all.
We won't be able to skip that.
Right.
Absolutely will not be able to skip that. This absolutely will be voted on by our community. So we turned this in the very beginning as a community engagement process. What better community involvement can we have by going to our community and saying, do you want this solution at this price, or do you not want this solution at this price? And that'll be the ultimate in community involvement.
Right. So that will happen likely in September?
Likely in September. I believe September 18th would be the election day.
Okay, so a lot happening up to this point. We started with our community engagement sessions in March and April. So a lot has happened up to this point. Still many steps in the process to go, and a lot of opportunity to continue to provide community input as well. So we thank you for joining us in this process so far. We encourage you to continue to engage with us in this facilities discussion, and we eventually will be working toward a September election. So we hope for your participation at that time as well. Thanks for joining us today on Envsion.